So, in addition to these changes that are being made, there have been rumors and reports circulating not just of talent that is releasing or talent that will be released or office staff that will be released, but also there have been rumors of changes regarding to the on-screen product of WWE. More so notably, they've been talking about a rumored split with the undisputed tag team championships. Rumors have begun to circulate about WWE introducing certain title schemes and weight classes amongst the rosters. Do you think that this is something that WWE is going to do and implement? And do you think that this is good for WWE?
I think that it wouldn't fit. It wouldn't fit. It
Mm,
wouldn't make sense to make it fit because back then when I was watching wrestling as a kid, right? Like there were people that were literally larger than life, and it was more common. Like you had like a lot of big people. You had people that were like 6'3" to 6'10", and like you had a handful of them too. But then even the guys
mm,
that were like riding around like this, the 5'11" to 6'2", like they had a lot of muscle mass, so you had enough for its own division for heavyweights. And then of course you had your mid carders, and they were going for like the IC title, US title, and stuff like that. Um, and and it worked back then because there literally was a division class, and each class was entertaining enough. But nowadays, not as many people, I should say, are stabbing themselves with needles. So we have a lot of smaller people, and that's okay. That's okay that they're smaller, but it's just like it's not going to make sense because we had smacked that world title on so many people now that are regular sized humans.
mm.
Well, yeah, just about regular sized humans. Not to say that they're tiny, it's just that like, they're very normal size, and we still use like we do say heavyweight, but we mean world title. Like the way that we adjusted as fans to watching, we always treated it like the World Heavyweight Championship or the WWE Championship, which is like the top of the top. You know what I mean? Like, yeah,
Right.
it's not a bad thing to get the IC belt or the US belt or whatnot, but like you want to shoot for that world belt. So I just feel like on a logical standpoint, it's not going to make sense just because you don't even have a division. You don't even have a division right now that would classify as a heavyweight.
Mm,
At least not with this company. And I feel like I've seen like in other companies, they still try to keep true to that whole weight class thing. Like I used Will Ospreay as an example before. Will Ospreay literally went up in weight classes on purpose so he could fight for the heavyweight belt in Japan, and that worked out accordingly, and it made sense. I don't think that here it would make sense. Currently, we have someone like Seth Rollins, running around with the belt, and I'm just like that wouldn't make sense. What are you gonna do? Push stuff down to the mid cards? Can he
yeah.
handle it? Yes, that's not the issue, but it's just like you look at him, look at him as a world title guy. You know what I mean? And that's the way we translate it as fans. So to divide it up amongst weight classes, I feel like it's too complicated. It's too contrived. It's illogical, and I feel like it's also going to put pressure on like the talent that we already have. It's going to probably pressure them to like move up and down weight classes because of the stigma that we already connected that the world belt or the heavyweight belt is like the top of the top of the top.
Right.
I just think it's just more problems. It's more messy when they could just focus on simply the easier part, the easier
Mm.
slices, which is just give us good storylines, put on good matches. That's all we ask for. We don't need this chopping up in weight classes. Like it's nice for realism, but it's inevitably silly considering what we accomplish now with the size guys we have.
Mm.
Yeah, that's what I think.
I personally like essentially to kind of piggyback off of you. I was going through my notes to kind
Mm-hmm.
of piggyback off of you. I think that part of successfully merging these two companies is understanding the unique identity of both. When you look at
Mm-hmm.
UFC, you're looking at a league in which every champion is a world champion. There's no such thing as a mid card. There's no such thing as an undercard. There's the world middleweight, the world, featherweight. So everybody's a world champion in their own right in UFC. And it's essentially just like who's the best fighter in the world in this weight class. And whereas in WWE, everything is like a hierarchy. You know what I'm saying? Like you have your Money in the Bank briefcase, you have your US title, you have your Intercontinental title, and then you can work your way up to the WWE World Heavyweight title or the WWE Universal Championship. Um, and I think that there's nothing wrong with that. I feel like there's nothing wrong with the two companies have two different identities and two different ways of doing things, because I think that when you look at the way the WWE is structured, there's a lot of wrestling history that goes behind even the mid card titles, right? When we talk about the United States Championship, this is a championship that has its roots in the territories and in the NWA. And essentially, the whole purpose of a United States champion in a certain territory was so that when the traveling world champion came to that particular territory, the person that world champion would face was usually that U.S. champion. That's not
Mm.
something that we see in the UFC. You know what I'm saying? Um, with tag teams, I don't think that we've seen a MMA tag team. So obviously, that's a whole thing within itself. But I don't think that the whole weight class thing um is going to work for WWE, because WWE is driven by UFC is driven by fights, but WWE is driven by stories. And because of that, when you start to put people in weight classes, you now are restricting them to the type of stories that they can tell. And on top of that, like there's so many in wrestling, like the industry is evolving in a way in which it's not all about who's the biggest, who's accumulated the most muscle mass. Like some of the best world champions that we've seen in the past 20 years have been people who aren't necessarily the biggest guys. Like Rey Mysterio wasn't the biggest guy. Randy Orton wasn't the biggest guy. Kurt Angle wasn't the biggest guy. So we have to keep that in mind, like moving forward. But I don't think that it's going to be good if they do decide to do the weight classes. There's also been talks of like a trios championship, which that could work, but I'm not sure of that either. But once again, I guess we can figure that out as things go along. But that kind of wraps up our that little topic as far as the championships and changes being made in the weight classes. So let us know how you guys feel in the comments below.